Aloha, everyone. Welcome back to Astrology for the New Age of Aquarius, utilizing the teachings of Omraam Mikhaël Aïvanhov as a foundation, a base for our journey into the deepness of ourselves and into the universe. So the name of the book is the Zodiac, Key to Man and Women, obviously, and to the universe. And you can get this book at Prosveta -USA with capital letters.com. And for most of you, if you've watched the recording of class 1, you will see that we now have a little YouTube channel, and there'll be a link to get this book and also to Omraam World that now has lots of information on the teachings of Omraam Mikhaël Aïvanhov. They're doing extraordinary work. So now what I would like to do is to invite each one of you. We're going to enter into a state of residence from our hearts. So let's just focus in on our breath, enter into our heart center, and little by little, allow ourselves from that space to connect to each person now that's on this Zoom, in this circle. So we're creating through the pulsation of our heart, supported by our breath, this soul connection. We're creating a circle, something that's so familiar for us, so ancient. And within this circle that we're creating amongst ourselves, we're allowing this heartbeat to resonate with the heartbeat of all humanity. We're allowing our breath to deepen. And as we're connecting to this pulsation, this heartbeat, this ebb and flow of all humanity, we're seeing that now our breath is actually touching the breath of Mother Gaia, of this earth consciousness that's completely embracing us, supporting our journey, each one of us, in our incarnational experience. And as we feel this breath and we enter into harmony with Mother Gaia, we're realizing that there are numerous beings that are there. And we'd like to honor them, that are supporting us on all different plans of consciousness, and we're inviting them in. The nature spirits, the elementals, the devas. And as we greet these beings, we're realizing that through our heart center, there's a synchronicity, a pulsation that's continued. And as we feel this extraordinary presence, we deepen our breath. And we invite in these extraordinary beings, the angel of earth, the angel of water, the angel of air, the angel of fire. And their harmony amongst themselves create this quintessence, this extraordinary element of essences, this astral light that we're constantly bathed in. And as we feel this ocean of astral light, we realize that there are extraordinary beings that are connected to our solar system, to each planet. Each planet has a guide. So we invite in these guides into our circle. And we feel their vibrations. We feel their emanation. We feel this tonality of resonance within our heart. And we feel that our heart takes on an extraordinary chamber of harmonic resonance. And we continue our journey, and as we expand our consciousness, we start reaching into the source of all creation, to this source, God, Goddess, that has emanated this possibility for us to come forth and experience life, experience creation in all its forms, infinite forms, its eternal presence, and its immortality of life. And we feel this heart resonate, and we welcome into our circle creation. Mahalo, which means thank you in Hawaiian. And for today, I'd like to invite us to do a quick review of Class 1. And we're going to see a little bit that journey, and then we're going to slowly enter into the state of planetary resonance and how that planetary resonance connects to our cross of destiny. So those are the two chapters that we were invited to look at, deepen, chapters 3 and 4. If you remember from last week, we talked about this enclosure of the Zodiac, that this represents infinity, infinite space, infinity. And in this enclosure of the Zodiac, there are portals, keys, remember? The key to man and the universe. That's what the Zodiac is. So, the astrology, the Zodiac, the study of astrology is the study for us with the keys. These 12 keys were opening up the doors of our consciousness so that we can experience to the fullest possible measure through these 12 portals, universal consciousness. That's extraordinary. So we looked upon that. We looked upon that within this enclosure of the Zodiac, we have something called the astral light. And in this astral light, everything is recorded. Everything that takes place in the universe is recorded. So in our little world, everything's recorded also. And that recording is found in this astral light, and it's stored. You could say there's backups, to utilize a technical term. There's backups of this astral light that's found in the Akasha records. That's what the Akasha records are. They're files of light. And the astrology for the new Age of Aquarius is going to invite us now to discover our own files. And through our files of light, the files of our own soul history, we're going to little by resonance, discover the universal memory. Now, I want us to just look at the word memory. Mem. It's a root letter in the Hebrew alphabet. Aleph, Mem, Shin. These correspond. Aleph to Brahma, Mem to Vishnu, Shin to Shiva. 3 fundamental principles of universal consciousness that's used in every single spiritual teaching. So memory is our soul. Mem, soul, ori, story. So memory is the story of our soul. This we call history. History, his story, is going to be transformed now. It's going to be transferred into her story, the story of our soul. So in this astral light, we're going to discover the story of our soul. And so last week, we looked at that in detail. And now we're entering into our self, our incarnation, this little circle in the middle. And in this little circle in the middle, we realize that that little circle is connected to a galactic center. That's our true center of our being. We're divine beings that were emanated from this infinite, eternal, immortal creation. God is source. And so this center that we have in this incarnation, this higher self center that we have in our creation, that's Skippy who's singing with us. This higher self creation, higher self that we have in this incarnation is connected to the galactic center. And we realize that center, from that center, the enclosure of the astrological circle was traced. And so the practical example of this, we gave this little example that Omraam Aïvanhov gave in the first chapter. He said, since everything is recorded in this astrolight, if we say to the universe, I love you, it's responded through this astrolight. It goes all the way to this enclosure of the Zodiac, and it comes back through all creation. All creation is enriched. And we talked about that each one of these portals, each one of these astrological signs expresses itself in creation through something that we call soul qualities. So these qualities that we learn in astrology aren't just these words in our relationship in a human way. These are actual beings that emanate these qualities in infinite ways. And as we deepen our connection to these qualities, as we allow ourselves to receive them and emanate them back to the universe, then we discover the infinite depth and resonance of these qualities. So we talked about that. So now, and then we continued by looking at these two paths that are in front of us, involution and evolution. And we started with the first path of involution. We did the first 4 signs. We started with Aries, and we said that in this first sign, everything's contained. In one, everything's contained. And this one differentiates itself into different expressions of the one. So at this beginning, in the beginning, we read the expression of this beginning by St. John. In the beginning was the Word. And we discovered that this Word is light. So let there be light is this first emanation. And it was received in itself, it emanated something from itself, and it was received by the second astrological sign of Taurus. Taurus is this grail, the chalice, that receives this light and is able to give it a substance and a form. So for us, as we become sensitive to this light, we bring these two principles, these two divine principles together, the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And we saw that as this involution continues, these two principles that come together, they create a third. They create a current that passes through the entire universe. And this current is what we call this caducée de Hermes, this vertical current that goes from the perimeter to the center to the center, to the perimeter, back to the galactic center, to the perimeter, to ourselves, our center. So it traces an 8, this figure of infinity, of course, in all dimensional ways. And we discovered that this current then needs a foundation to continue this experience, and this foundation was this ocean, this divine ocean, water, emanated by Cancer. So Cancer contains everything of life. It holds this life. And from this life, we're going to emanate the next expression. The next expression of this is, once again, an emanation of light. But this light is now coming in a different form. It's coming from now our heart center. Before it was emanating from this divine head, the divine thought form of God, Goddess. And now it's descended into our hearts, and it's emanating out, and the natural tendency of us is to create, to express. So this is the gift of Leo. This is the gift of the next expression, is how we can emanate now, how we can become creators, how we can, from our heart center, learn how to create, emanate this creative force. And this creative force needs something to hold it. And the form of that is Virgo. Virgo is the altar of creation. So our creative expression is offered, is put on the altar. And in Virgo, a lot of times, Virgo is represented by a woman holding a staff of wheat. It's this divine feminine that's, through her purity, this purity of expression and service, is receiving this creative impulse that's coming from our heart. And obviously, as that's put on the altar, then that expression, these two principles, creates something, this third, which is Libra. Everything becomes beautiful. Everything becomes harmonious. Everything becomes balanced. So there's this divine balance that comes into play through harmony and beauty, through this impulse of our heart to create, and this ability to receive it with sacredness. And from that, now we're entering into a divine mystery. And from that, the waters, in this case, are Scorpio. Now, Scorpio is an extraordinary mystery, because Scorpio in reality is double. There's a 13th zodiacal sign called Orpheus. Now, Orpheus is not seen at all. It's underneath the horizon. So Scorpio is doubled. So in these waters, what happens, these waters then, by this harmony, by this impulse of our hearts, by this state of purity and sacredness, this force is awakened. This dragon, the phoenix, is awakened. And in this awakening, yeah, we have a tractor going by. I live on a farm. So in this awakening, the current begins to rise. It rises. It comes up. So these waters now are being expanded. They're being expanded like water when it bubbles. And in this expansion, there's an ideals that comes through. A whole new cycle comes forth. There's a movement towards a direction, a purpose. Life takes on a purpose because our viewpoint now is higher. We've risen and we can see from a different viewpoint. And so if you look at the icon of Sagittarius, this next 4 cycles, this little flesh with a cross, it's showing us that now this fire has a direction, a movement, a purpose to do what? To connect heaven and earth. That's its direction. And to do this, it calls in something else. We need to develop mastery. We need to become masters, all of us. This energy of Capricorn. It receives this direction and it deepens it and it starts edifying the temple of our mastery. And in this temple, we're going to invite all of creation. All of creation is going to come into this temple. We open up ourselves to this universal family in Aquarius. And then from this universal family, we once again invite all of creation and this sense of self that was awoken. May thy will be done at the beginning in Aries has now reintegrated itself into the cosmic ocean of love in Pisces. So this circle of involution starts with this declaration, let there be light in Aries. And that echoes through all these different expressions. And once again, reintegrates into the infinite ocean of love to reemerge once again. So, now, let's take a look at our circle of evolution going in the opposite direction. So, I asked you as homework to familiarize yourselves with these 2 directions, that it becomes completely natural for you, that these qualities become natural, that each one has a different element that's connected to them, that it's not something theoretical, that you begin to familiarize yourself with them. So, starting with Aries, we enter into Pisces. And as an example for this, just as an image, let's take each one of us. Each one of us has awoken somehow in this lifetime to embrace something different that life here on earth is showing us. We can see life here on earth is showing us a dualistic society. There's still cruelty, there's still hatred, there's still ignorance, there's still poverty, there's still sickness. And we were immersed in that, everyone, all of human beings. But somehow, for us to be here now in this circle, something happened. So we emerge from this unconscious state of humanity, from Pisces, the unconsciousness, this unconscious state. And from this unconscious state, these waters, we had a shock. Something happened, and we awoken the desire to change. We said the life that we're expressing right now needs something higher. Aquarius came in. It shocked us, either through an accident, either through an inspiration. Our lives were turned upside down. And through this turning upside down, we discovered that life is different. We want to change. And so in this desire to change, we decided, we're going to seek out someone to teach us. A teacher. Capricorn. The teacher. And how does Capricorn teach us? Well, through archetypes. And through these archetypes, we learn how to bring our lives into rhythm. It teaches us rhythm. So if you look at any spiritual school, true spiritual school, all through history, what happened? The disciple arrived and they were taught to enter into a rhythm of the day through simple occupations. So little by little they're taught to harmonize themselves with a rhythm. So Capricorn teaches us that. How do we enter into the rhythm of our soul purpose? And so now we enter into a new cycle. Just like before, we started with Aries, and now we finish with the Earth in Capricorn, this rhythm. We start with Sagittarius. And what do we come up with? Oh, we start being taught. Through this rhythm, we start learning. Who's our first teacher? Nature. Nature teaches us. The book of nature teaches us everything. Everything is found in nature. And so in nature, we're not talking just physical, observable nature, but also invisible nature. All these beings that exist, everything that exists, all the relationships, and they take form through the different sciences that have been developed. Natural sciences here on Earth, all the different forms, and the esoteric sciences, in which astrology is one. So we start learning that. And as we assimilate this, our next step begins, our initiation. Scorpio. Scorpio is the door of initiation, our trials. Why? Because in Scorpio we need to bring this into places that have never been touched before. So the underworld, our underworld needs to be touched. Symbolized in the Judeo-Christian tradition of Jeshua ben Joseph entering in to the underworld, bringing this Christ light deep, deep, deep within. So this is the portal of Scorpio going in the direction of evolution. And we arrive then, that initiation we're received in Libra. We're received by the beings now that have taught us. And they're going, oh my God, thank you so much. And we enter in now to assimilating these initiations. We integrate it into ourselves because our next phase is to offer that in service to all humanity. Virgo. We enter into service. Everything that we've learned now, we need to put into practice for others. Service. And now we begin a new cycle. So in that service, we understand that we ourselves need to radiate. We need to become a sun. Instead of before, like an earth, that we were absorbing the influences and the support and the teachings of others. Now it's time for us in our service to express, radiate this teaching. So Leo becomes this expression. The sun, we become a sun. And automatically, that sun needs to, this expression needs to have a foundation, a home, a center. A center in which this sun can radiate, and people can come and they can feel secure and safe. And they can start, they themselves, this journey. So we foster a home for people to come to. And then we enter into Gemini. We become a teacher. We have all these little students. Discovery. Once again, by teaching to these students, we're being taught. Our inner child stays young. Our hearts remain always young. So Gemini rejuvenates this experience. And then this cycle comes to this foundational experience of Taurus. We leave something behind, a legacy. Taurus, represented, you could say, by the Egyptians. You see, the pyramids that are there as physical monuments showing this extraordinary civilization of initiation. So we've looked at now these two cycles in different ways of involution and evolution, of going from the subtle, entering in and elaborating that here on Earth, and then reintegrating, coming from the unconsciousness, this dense, and coming into something in which we can leave behind us. So all of life is this way, all of life. And so the astrology for the new age of Aquarius is going to pay a lot of attention to how each individual utilizes these two currents of involution and evolution. And so our dear planet Earth, it also has an involution and an evolution. So what is the evolution of the Earth? It's to become a sun. And in order for us to participate fully in the evolution of Earth, we need to become a particle of the sun. We need to become a ray of the sun. And in this spiritual teaching of Omraam Aïvanhov, there are songs that illustrate these evolutionary stages of every human being. One of the songs is called SanctuaryLubof. I am a ray of love, sun ray of love. So as we begin to sing this song in our evolutionary experience here in our incarnation, we're assisting our dear Mother Gaia, all of Earth, to achieve her purpose. And each one of us individually has a purpose also, a soul purpose. And each one of our diverse soul purposes have only one goal, is to become light, to become crystalline, to enter into this state where we can funnel, we can pass light directly through us. So can you put up the next diagram, please? Thank you. So that was our little review, and we went a little bit further in the two currents of involution and evolution. And now what we're entering into is the third chapter, which was devoted to planets, planetary consciousness. So the planets, remember, they're immersed in this astral light, and their, you could say, function, purpose, I don't want to use trite words, is to activate, to bring this light. And the qualities, these portals that are open, they bring this into our experiential incarnation through our activities. So in this diagram, you can see always the astrological signs, and I want you to pay attention to these words on the outside of the circle. So this first four, from Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer, they emanate in the direction of involution, this direction of involution. The next four, they create. This is the world of creation. And then the final form, they form. The final four, they enter into the world of formation, and the result of that is in the center, Earth. Earth is born. And now if we go in the opposite direction, we start with this world of formation, you see? And as we evolve, we become creators. And as this creation starts radiating, we emanate, and we become so subtle that we reintegrate completely into creation. So we can see these two currents expressed in that way. Now, from the outside of the circle, we see the spiral of the Milky Way galaxy. That turns, all our Milky Way galaxy is turning in a clockwise direction. It's a spiral around the galactic center. But they say a star that they give a name, Sagittarius, blah, 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 blah. The planetary orbit, though, all the planets are orbiting the sun counterclockwise. Counterclockwise. Completely different direction. And then as we enter into the earth, our incarnation, it's turning also. It's rotating on its axis. It's turning clockwise. You see, so we have this alternance of energy. And this is what creates this energetic forces, magnetism, gravity, you see? The fusion and fission of the nuclear energy. These are the four fundamental forces, and the four forces that the planets, they act in, they govern, they exalt, they're exiled, and they fall. All these are energetic expressions of the universe, created by these different movements. We'll get into that. And so, we're going to take a look at this chapter 3 that some people, when they talk to me, they went, oh my God, I don't understand anything that's going on. So, let's just look at the big picture, because it's easier when you start with the big picture. And that's where Omraam Mikhaël is, he's just a master in this. He's able to link this huge macrocosmos with the micro, days of the week. So what is he saying? He's saying, oh, well, it's not arbitrary, the days of the week. The days of the week corresponds to this divine movement. And he looks at he pays attention, and he brings us into the tree of life. And he says, oh, well, you see the first two expressions of God, Goddess, they're outside our realm of consciousness, Neptune and Uranus. And as we enter into our incarnation realm of consciousness, we start with Saturn in Bina, and then we go to Hesed, Jupiter, we go over to Geburah, Mars, we enter into the middle, into the Sun, Tiferet, we go over to Netzach, Venus, we go over to Hod, Mercury, we come back to the middle for the Moon, and then finally, oh, the Earth, we're there. And he says that, oh, if we look at this, and we start with Saturn, and we go 1 hour every day, there's a different planet that's expressing itself through music, through resonance. Then we see how these days, we go through this. The next day, Saturday, which corresponds to Saturn, the next day will be Sunday. It will start with the sun. So all of this you can reread, you can get to know, you can play with. It's extraordinary the things that you can discover. And I really, for those that are musicians, it's unbelievable what you'll discover. The whole science of musical harmonics is found in that. The cycle of fifths and ninths, that represents the golden mean, in which these extraordinary cathedrals were built that serve as resonances. If you've ever heard sacred music sung in these immense cathedrals, you know what that's like. Well, that's what we are going to experience in the Age of Aquarius. We are going to become temples. And the angels, they're going to come and sing within us. And we're going to express this resonance for everyone around us. Earth is going to become an extraordinary choir of this divine resonance. So, that's, in summary, the big and little picture. Are we able now, with our minds, to let go of any thought form and say to ourselves, we are immersed in a universe that sings. And every hour of the day, from now on, there's another note that's being resonated into my consciousness. Isn't that extraordinary? Every hour. every hour. So, I'd like to read to you from that first chapter. Chapter 3. So, as you enter in, those that have this book, okay, that have this book now and are studying it or reading it, it's really extraordinary to chew long times on this extraordinary things that he's saying, because the secrets, the mysteries of astrology are revealed. And we'll get into that little by little. So listen to this. And as each planet has not only its own particular color, so represented in our aura, but also its own musical note, and he gives a frame of reference. Now that's just one frame of reference. He starts at Saturn the way I did before and comes all the way down to the moon. So Saturn now C, D, E, F, G, A, B, coming back at Saturn. Okay? The symphony of sounds varies with each hour of the day because of the successive presence of different spirits. Oh, so these sounds, they have spirits, they have living beings associated with them. My goodness. So every hour, not only there's a musical resonance, but there's a whole world of different spirits. Mind-blowing. Through their song, so they sing. Imagine, they're singing. They're singing to us. Through their song, the planets create the music that fills the vastness of space. It fills it. Infinite space is filled by this music of the planets. Imagine the music of the planets. And is known, it's known as the music of the spheres. Well, that name, music of the spheres, is what astrology was called way back when. It was a musical language. Why? Because every single relationship is musical. Through meditation and contemplation, so there's two activities, meditation and contemplation, we can perceive the planetary angelic symphony, animated by the song of angels. The universe lives, breathes, and nourishes itself. Oh, so music is a food. It's a food for our soul. So as we become musical, as we become musical beings, we nourish ourselves. And as we cultivate the garden of our soul, we can distribute that to others. So, I'm going to read another passage. Okay. The planets and the days of the week sing in choral harmony before the throne of their Creator. Linked one to the other, they are like the beads of an endless rosary, unfolding on the backdrop of eternity. Can you imagine? Let's imagine the backdrop of eternity, and that the planets, this state of resonance that we're wearing on ourselves, in our aura, is vibrating. If rosaries have a prominent place in so many religions, it is because they are the symbols of this endless chain of cosmic forces. This infinite succession of elements and beings. And we too, we are links in that chain. We are. We're not separate. Remember? We're never separate. So this is the greatest lesson that this chapter 3 can teach us. We are a part of this symphony. We aren't separate from it. Nothing happens to us. This is all a song going on, whether it be dissonant or harmonious. And the end result of this song is the song of angels. This is the angelic choir that's being called in now by the Age of Aquarius. We must never forget that. This is the Master speaking. We must never forget that, for we will live out our lives in unison with cosmic harmony only if we are always conscious of being part of this infinite unfolding. So creation is infinite unfolding. And, I'm a musician. I create. I'm a composer. And I'm 72 years old, and I'm astonished that with this limited amount of notes, I can still compose something new. So that's the microcosmos. That's the microcosmos. Every one of you is the same in your domain. In this tiny, tiny, tiny fragment that's available to our physical senses, we have infinite possibilities. This is the astrology for the Age of Aquarius. We're no longer trying to jam infinity into a tiny, tiny, tiny square. Contrary, this tiny square is entering into the circle of infinity. I have 5 more minutes left. We're just going to look at the crosses. Just look at the crosses. So, this is showing us these diagrams are going to be available, so you'll be able to download these diagrams and this class too on YouTube. Yes, you can download the pictures and diagrams from the website soulessence.org and under the article's description box on our YouTube channel. So that will all be clear for you, and little by little we're going to establish a little bit of link with Omraam World, so you'll be able to, through the YouTube channel, easily navigate to Omraam World and vice versa, which will be absolutely extraordinary. And there'll be others doing that. There'll be an endless chain of this divine expression of these teachings that this man, Omraam Aïvanhov, has offered to us. So as you look at this diagram, you're seeing that on the horizon, when the sun is in Aries, that Aries will and Libra will always be on the horizon. And you see? And the vertical axis will always be Capricorn and Cancer. Always. Except because there's variations with the Earth. You see it's tilted, it wobbles, blah, blah, blah. It's not a perfect circle, we're elliptic. Okay, there's a little bit of variations. But we can say that we can just wrap our heads around this. We're going to demystify all this. And as the sun moves through Aries, these 30 degrees of Aries, the month from March 21st to April 21st, this cross at sunrise will have this same cross. You see, at a different degree. The first day on March 21st, at sunrise, Aries will be at 0 degrees. Second day, at sunrise, Aries will be at 1 degree on the horizon. Okay? And it goes through for Taurus, etc., etc. So this is our cross of the destiny. Our cross of the destiny is the interaction between the rotation of the Earth around the sun and the rotation of the Earth on its axis. Because depending on the time of the day, then this line of horizon changes. Can you please put up the last diagram? And you see how beautiful these diagrams are? Greta, my wife Greta, it's absolutely extraordinary what she can do. Absolutely extraordinary. So on this diagram we see 6 o'clock in the morning. Now remember that the Earth is turning in the way, the direction of the clock. That's the direction of the Earth. So you see 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, noon, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Every 2 hours, the astrological sign changes on the horizon. So we can't do that. We could do it with animation, but in a physical form, how did we illustrate that? So as the sun rises, as we said before, this is an example of the sun in Aries. You see the first cross at 6 o'clock in the morning on the left-hand side is Aries, Libra, Capricorn, and Cancer. Now, at 8 o'clock in the morning, the astrological sign now that's on the horizon is Taurus and its opposite Scorpio with Aquarius and Leo. So every 2 hours there's a movement. So this song of the planets, it takes place in this cross, in this building. So as we become aware of our fundamental cross, and we're able to little by little see the energetics, and we start living our day, we start becoming aware of just the big moments. Sunrise, sunset, noon, midnight, dream time. See, we start becoming aware of those moments. We bring those moments into our field of awareness. Then little by little, we're going to start having a living relationship with the cross. And so, my last, what I would like to read, it's found in the first chapter of the book. Those who penetrate the realm of the Zodiac become subject to the constraints of time, the cycles, and space. Only pure spirits are free of the fetters of time and space. So time and space is this cross. Space is horizontal, time is vertical. But as soon as they incarnate, so these pure spirits, as soon as they incarnate, they enter into the zodiacal enclosure and are caught up in the magic circle of implacable destiny, which shackles even the most luminous beings. And little by little, we're going to enter into that. You know, these are very powerful words. Shackles, implacable, you know, especially those that live in the United States are revolted by that. What do you mean? I'm not a free American living in this country? We'll get into all this. Okay? Even the greatest sons and daughters of God, this reality is reflected in the human body where the spirit is imprisoned. The whole body represents the circle of the zodiac, and each organ or member corresponds to a particular sign. We saw that last week a bit. This is one way of representing. It can be represented in numerous ways, but it's important to understand that this prison that we're living in is still represented by this immensity of creation. So it's a different type of prison, obviously. In order to free themselves from the coils of the serpent that holds them prisoner, so we're held prisoner. Humans have to free themselves from the cycles of incarnations. So, how did Buddha do it? In his story, he tried to fight against this serpent. Oh my God, I can resist. I'm going to get out. I'm stronger, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly he said, no. What if I surrender? What if I come small? What if I say, it's not me, it's thy will, God. You know better than me. You know how to do things. Up. He was let go. So this is our destiny now. It's not to become meek, in other words, to give up and say, no, we have to have a will in order for the divine will to manifest. So we need to exercise ourselves. That's this cycle of evolution. But in order for us to free ourselves from the cross of destiny and enter in this thought that I sent out with the flyer, to the roof of the house, the cross represents, the foundation. Well, how do we get to the roof? Well, we have to climb up. And from this roof of the house, we have a completely different viewpoint of the universe. So symbolically, this is represented by us coming into our center. Well, what is our center? It's our soul purpose. So how do we get to know our soul purpose? And that's what we're going to enter into next week. We're going to discover the axis of destiny and understand how does that relate into the choices we made before incarnating. So I want to thank you so much, all of you, for your attention, for your love, and especially for your resonance in this harmonic whole. The way you're understanding creation is perfect. The way you're participating is perfect, with always room for improvement. Me also. Always room for improvement. So I would like to now bring our attention into this extraordinary circle. Once again, we're recognizing everything we've received. This guidance by these beings that are constantly singing their song to us. Little by little, we're starting to understand the first note, and then the second note, and the third note. So we're so grateful for these beings, their divine patience, their kindness, their understanding. We're honoring this presence of ourselves here on earth, that we have this possibility to be supported and work consciously with these extraordinary beings. And that each one of us represents a diverse manifestation of this divine expression of God Goddess. So I would like to honor that in each one of you. I'd like to honor our breath. I'd like to honor our heartbeat. I'd like to honor our time together here on earth as conscious souls edifying heaven on earth. May God bless you all. And our next encounter will be sometime in January, and the recording for this will be available. I will send it all out to you, and may God bless.